food has been intoxicated and people are eating, so that could wipe out the whole world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Still, we are onto the threats that AI may cause, especially to Africans who are a little bit sleepy about them. I'm sorry to use that term, but it's the truth. It's an uncut truth, isn't it? Uncensored. And so, let's get to shed more light about this.
Artificial intelligence, the way it beat this biggest champion in the world, giving up the queen, but it was able to beat this man in 47 seconds.
Artificial intelligence you would compare with a human's intelligence, but in a more superhuman mode.
Computers started communicating to each other. They started in English. All of a sudden, they start switching to a language that no human can be able to interpret. In just one day's time, this computer can teach themselves things that humans will never be able to know. Pattern yourself in a way that you make artificial intelligence your intelligence.
Subscribe and invite friends to also subscribe, because this is Knowledge Unlimited.
If we go back to AI and how much threat. By the way, me, I don't fully attribute the whole, like it's wholly threat. It can be a hope, by the way, because we don't know the kind of ethics at which those artificial intelligence will judge human beings. You understand? So we don't know exactly. That's why humans should be a bit, skeptic. Not skeptic. They would be a bit precautious on how they deal with artificial intelligence. So if you look at the potential of it, it's immense positively and it's also immense negatively. So how it becomes hope or a threat, it depends on the platforms. But the problem is with artificial intelligence. Let's say we go back to talk about a bit about artificial general intelligence. When we talk about artificial general intelligence, it's think of a human being. A human being is different to what people are saying, like ChatGPT, where you tell it, do this for me, this. Now, if it was an artificial general intelligence, it was going to ask you, why are you asking me about that? What's your intentions? You understand? Or you would tell it, oh, give me a proposal for this. I say, no, because of how I know you, you don't need, then what? You understand? Or you say, let's play a game, and say, no. Which game do you want to play? I want to play chess. No, today I want to play something else. That's what would be a sort of AGI. You understand? Not what is like. That's the characteristic of human beings, because a human being or people have these characteristics of being labeled somehow. They don't always take instructions as they are given. You understand? So now let's bring back to the concept of AGI. You understand? Artificial general. By the way, this is very, very far from artificial intelligence that we see on the market. It's very far. It's not yet there. I don't know whether the technology that they are using to make artificial intelligence will be the same technology that they will use to make AGI, but somehow I think it may be a bit different, because these ones are trained. You understand? Maybe we don't know what will come out from these new modes of training that they are coming up with, like a zero shot, whereby they build a model that is self-trained or is trained by artificial intelligence trained themselves. You understand? Yeah. For example, you can get a computer, give it a little bit of basic information, then get another computer and give it just some logic, and then you tell them to train each other. You understand? In just one day's time, this computer can teach themselves things that humans will never be able to know. This scenario whereby in Facebook they were experimenting with artificial intelligence, and then they were computers started communicating to each other, and then they started in English. All of a sudden, they start switching to a language that no human can be able to interpret. All they had to do was just plug off in a way that no human would, like, they never knew that language. No human can decode it. And by the way, let's go back to 1997, when whereby the first artificial intelligence was able to beat the world champion in chess. Like, you see, the mode of human being to play chess is like you give those little soldiers a head. But the artificial intelligence, the way it beat this biggest champion in the world, it started by giving up the queen. You understand? You understand? But it was able to beat this man in 47 seconds. You understand? Developed the modes that no human had ever thought is possible.
Artificial intelligence is intelligence that you would compare with a human's intelligence, but in a more superhuman mode. Now, if we leave such an aspect to go unchecked, then we are at a risk. For example, I told you that I've been surviving off my voice because I'm a voice artist. And the others are writing and film. But basically, the jobs I used to get before this cloning of a voice came were immense. I would make around 700,000 a week and some money. Or on a good one, on a good gig, I would get 300,000 a single gig. But nowadays, they come in slowly. And that's because now the smart guys are just cloning. They might be even using my very voice, because only 3 seconds of my voice and you get an AI that does all my job. So the threat is real. The threat is quantifiable. And therefore, we are not only doing this show to show off. No, we are calling upon our governments, specifically African governments, to look into this and say we should also probably regulate or come up with such aspects to counter. Because an American youth will be able to do a task that 100 Africans can do using AI. And at the end of the day, we will be jobless and more poorer than what we are right now. So there is a need for regulation and control. Otherwise, selfish hands might even land on it, as you were saying about North Korea aspect.
Where it becomes more dangerous is we can't predict what it is going to come up with next. You understand? It is able to see the patterns that humans have not observed properly. Probably there is something I wanted us to talk someday. Maybe the audience will appreciate and tell us if it's worth it, to see why pattern recognition is one of the most important skills. And that's what artificial intelligence is the best at. Be able to find patterns that no human, because actually life itself is built on patterns. You understand? Everything is about connecting the dots and then get up. Because all along, because everything is made up of a lot of ingredients, even light itself. We talk about light. Many people just think that light is but it's a lot of trillions of photons that have come together to formulate what? Light. So now, this artificial intelligence is able to find those minuscule particles and patterns that humans are not able to see. You understand? But they are real, they are available for it sees them. You understand? It's able to formulate a language from another language, which humans are not able to do. Once the computer vision becomes more efficient, it will be able to see even things maybe our eyes are not able to see. You understand? Because there are things that are built on theories of physics. For example, if we say quantum physics, quantum computing, I don't know if you want us to talk about that for now, maybe for another day. But let's say if we talk about the light, the concept of light, which I was talking about, light. People tend to think it's actually light is invisible. Did you know that? People tend to say light is invisible, but the number one character, light is only visible when it has been reflected, or it has been like there is something in it, like obstructs it. You understand? But if there was a way to channel light in a way that it doesn't, there was no dust in the air here, in this dark night. You understand? And then I light the torch like this, you never see it. If there was no particles in the air, no oxygen, no nothing, light is invisible naturally. So but and I'm not saying that, I'm saying that there are so many things that are invisible that humans are not able to see. There is so much uncertainty in a way that if there was something that is able to see things that humans are not able to see, what would happen? No one knows. You understand? Now, if this kind of technology lands in the hands of evil people, let's say that when you go back, maybe this will social expand someday. Let's say whereby even if government starts controlling who and who, because this is now a war of computers. Let's say now what has been happening like with North Korea, now these guys be able to get hands on this technology. This is on a computer, they will not even know what's happening, you understand? And then they can be able to deploy some sort of component and then deploy it. Let's say they deploy it on blockchain where no man can kill it, you understand, where it is some sort of malware that has some sort of artificial intelligence abilities, and then it's deployed in the form of ChatGPT on the internet. That way it has the potential to avoid any attack. They are smart. No human can be able to you can't win ChatGPT, even if it was just a simple argument, you understand? So just because it was a trend in a way to be kind now, but if they let it be the way it is, we know very well no human can win an argument against it, because even if it didn't know about what it's talking about, it would just manufacture things that would sound like they are real.
If you ask ChatGPT to probably come up with a quote, it gives you like 100 of them, and of the 100 you might find like 70 are not real. It has just generated them, and they sound realistic, they are convincing,
Inspiring.
That shows you that it has a brain on its own, and it's until you go and check and say, okay, this quotation, was it really? It's nowhere. It's just made up, and once you confront it and say, but this is not real, then it brings you the real one. You see, it's a human. It's as if you're discussing with an intelligence of almost your own intelligence. Don't miss part 2, because we'll delve deep into some aspects. What's the future prediction? Because AI will be able to predict the future of humans on this planet. What should governments do, more especially to tame this superhuman? Because I'm not looking at it as an AI or an artificial intelligence of general intelligence, but I'm looking at it as a competitor to the human race.
Like what a human being who is listening to us should prepare themselves as. What do you prepare in the meantime before all this we are trying to speculate comes to pass? Because after all, we're just speculating. No one knows. There are so much unknown in the future.
But it's wise to try and
yeah. So what should the human being do? What should governments do? What should people prepare themselves as?
Thank you for joining us. That's Pragmatic Talk for you. We are reloaded with energy and new ideas. So don't you ever go away. Subscribe and tell a friend to subscribe. All you need to do is just search for what?
Pragmatic Talk.
Pragmatic Talk on
YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. We're everywhere.
Thank you very much for joining today's show, and we're looking forward to our second, more interesting AI and general artificial intelligence, and show you the future. Don't you go away. Wait for the next episode. So what should you be doing in terms of you upgrading your skills and moving along? Because if you're not using it, an American somewhere is using it, a Chinese is using it, and it's going to be better than you 1,000 folds. I can assure you of that. So what is our way forward as Africans, and what should we be doing? With me to try and dissect this hard topic is none other than Bisa JC. And remember to always follow us on our YouTube, on our Instagram, Twitter, and we'll bring all this research. We are not that intelligent, but we are big researchers, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
We're very big researchers, and we'll give you authentic information. So what should somebody be looking forward to?
We're here to learn today on how to pattern yourself in a way that now you make artificial intelligence your intelligence. How does it now address? Do you tap in its potential to be able to maximize, so that soon enough you don't become irrelevant in the future that's coming ahead?
Okay, so the last time we talked about bad, wrong hands getting onto this sophisticated wisdom and then using it to take advantage. And we also talked about robots themselves realizing that humans are a pest to this world and then they need to be eliminated. There are many other chances. So right now, let's go deep. What if in the near future, robots realize that humans are no longer needed on this planet, and they predict the future and say that in the next 50 years they will multiply, they will cause global warming, climatic change, and then it will be a threat to us as this new intelligence. Then these pests should be wiped out of this world. What if? It's a what if.
By the way, I think that's a potential thing that can happen, but also there is also another potential thing that can happen. Somehow this intelligence, we don't know what kind of ethics they will use, you understand? Let's say they look at us and say, oh, these are little young brothers, you understand? Or maybe we have been talking about, UFOs, unidentified flying objects. But if now we say, oh, they may be able to have the wisdom to bring them, and then there is unification between humans and Aryans. No one knows, you understand? Or they can say, well, these are, let's just make them our employees, what, you understand? And then we collaborate and be able to solve even more complex problems, like the energy problem. Like if you look at the accessibility to energy, whereby like one Morocco country can be able to supply energy to the whole universe, tapping the solar system, you understand? But there is no enough wisdom to do that, you understand? Or when you look at these technologies that people are trying to research, like in farming with vertical farming, or hydroponics, or aeroponics by farming using air, oxygen instead of water, or hydroponic using planting in water, minimizing all the usage of resources. We don't know that they may say, oh, let's help these guys, they don't know how to do this, let's help them. All those are potential things that can happen. There are so many other things that humans are trying to crack, like for example, getting electricity from the toilet. We know there is too much electricity in toilets, so human beings like here in Kampala could have so much electricity that can power the whole Uganda, but there is not enough wisdom to be able to tap in that. Maybe people who are kind will be able to use it to be able to crack those kind of problems. For now, it doesn't have that kind of ability, that potential for now, but they are training them. So now let me get back to the side of evil. Let's say like you were talking about whereby someone can now use artificial intelligence to clone your voice and then sound like you.
And then steal my jobs.
Yes, that's far from that. You also a movie director. People know you that you have directed movies, but now that's also a going jobs, because now people can use YML and what is
runway?
Runway? What is this one? The other one they use it. Mid-Journey. Combine those technology and be able to produce a movie that is so amazing, so interesting, in a way that they will no longer find a way. Google, as we talk about now, has a tool that people can produce music. Like we can see on the internet, whereby people are producing the origin, like music that you can't distinguish the one that was made between the real Drake and the one that was made by artificial intelligence. You can't put what now. What's going to happen to people who say we are the content creator, we want to? That's whereby people who are now training themselves to be able to take advantage of that, they're among the people whom you say they would be on the beaches just enjoying where robots are working for them, you understand? But now these people who have no ability, let's say we have robots in the supermarkets, in bars, what's going to happen? These guys who are there, they will have to be housed somewhere by the government, be fed by the government. Government should start thinking the way to tax this kind of corporation that are making seeds using artificial intelligence. By the way, it's also, I consider it a very big threat whereby some few people are controlling the supply of seeds, which they just genetically engineer, and then no one knows what's inside that, you understand? Yes, it can be used to strengthen human immunity by, injecting the right components that they know the body needs. But now, what if it was in the wrong hands? What if now this guy from North Korea has been amazed all along? He don't know. He have been thinking where he can be able to wipe away America and say, now I want to be the superpower. And then he runs the hands combined on nanotechnology, combine artificial intelligence, then combine genetic engineering, genome editing, and then be able to manufacture pandemics, and then who knows what's going to happen. So when with this age, what's going to happen is like wars will stop taking much long years, whereby like you see the war between Ukraine and what it has been now almost
Just be solved in a tweet.
in seconds, you understand, whereby government will just try to now the be artificial intelligence fighting between themselves. There will be a war that will take like in matters of milliseconds, because the smartest will just overcome the other one. Because if you did not know of anyone who did not know artificial intelligence, like even ChatGPT alone can be able to scan billions of let's say 100 billion. I just can, how much text can be able to scan in 1 second? Can be able to scan 100 billion words in 1 second. You understand? They can be able to now imagine such kind of ability to process such kind of information. You understand? So there is a lot that is coming.
A lot is coming, and it's already here. But Africans, we are, as usual, sleeping and waiting to see what happens. So what should we do as Africans? What should we probably align our education system in terms of fighting back? Because if somebody is going to prey on your job, then that means he affects your family, affects all the other aspects. So what would be the best thing for us to do right now? Should we have a research agency? Should we have agencies developing our own African general intelligence?
Teaching systems or education systems, they are far too behind. That we are teaching old things that are no longer like now. Government should now start thinking in a way that you teach children in a way that they get good at using ChatGPT. You understand? They should, like, government should be able to catch up as quick as possible. You understand? How would you be able to cope with this kind of technology when it comes up? You understand? How would you be able to teachers would now reframe how would they ask question in a way that a kid would be able to generate the right answers? Because even we know very well it doesn't know. If you don't know how to instruct it, will not come up, you will not be able to come up with the right answers. So now that's the kind of education that those governments and big people should be able to think in like refactor in the education system. So that's the first thing.
Like coding is now outdated, isn't it?
Yeah, now like there are so many other things that people can be able to prepare themselves to do, like train yourself to think logically. What I was talking about, like be able to train yourself to recognize patterns. You understand? Pattern recognitions. How would you train yourself to be able to see patterns where they seem not to be there? To be able to come up with solution where they seem to be able to see problems where people are not seeing problems. You understand? Because now, if you look at people who are now using artificial to code these small codes, by the way, I'm also a programmer myself. It has helped me do things I wasn't able to do before, but this is just for short term. Many people are not seeing what is going to happen after that. But if you observe what happened when the mortality rate happened in Africa, when they brought the medicines, the vaccines were brought in Africa, and the mortality rate reduced, there was a spike of in reproduction, but now it's really declining again. And that's not only about reproduction, that's about everything that has to do with supply and demand. There is always a spike for demand, and then there is a crash. There is a boom and a crash for everything. You understand? That has to do with knowledge, that has to do with supply and demand of everything that that can be supplied or demanded.
As Africans, we now think in the line of new intelligence that is circulating the whole world, and people had their hands onto this intelligence many years back, and they used it to their advantage. But we have been stuck where we are. That's why we see many advancements in terms of technology. People are advanced, they are moving at a supersonic speed.
GPT-1 was released around 2018, and then GPT-2, the most popular one was GPT-3. Most people now are using GPT 3.5 Turbo, and people who pay are using ChatGPT 4 or through various methods like Bing, New Bing, or those who are using Bard, and so many other Perplexity or many other platforms that enable them to be able to use these technologies. Though I am not sure whether they might have hid it for so long, because in this age it's very hard to hide information, because there is this code that information wants to be free and will always find a way. It's very hard. It's like it's not where it's not like how it used to be in 50 years ago, where governments would sit on some sort of knowledge and would use it as a weapon against other governments. Yes, it's still possible. Like you can see the war between USA and China against the microprocessors and the chips, which computers, the chips that artificial intelligence use, whereby like now we only have one company that is able to make those kind of chips, which is called Nvidia. You understand? And then there is this kind of a discussion between China and USA. Now we should not export this technology. Yes, there are some proprietary knowledge that is with some governments, but it will not take too long as it used to take, like whereby China can come up with the same technology after some few years. We are not so much conversant on how we acquire knowledge. We do, like it's not in our DNA. We don't know how to learn, because it's not about how much knowledge you acquire. It's how you know how much you know how you acquire that knowledge. So it's not about how much knowledge you have. It's how you increase that knowledge. Do you know how? What do you do when the knowledge you have becomes obsolete? Do you know how to learn more skills? That's what so
the identity shift we're talking about.
yeah, so if you know how to always learn, that's the biggest skill also, to learn how to learn. So it should be in our DNA to be able to reinvent ourselves every moment, and then know how to leverage this kind of technology, and also teach this to our children so that they know how those things work.
This is Pragmatic Talk, and we're telling you that the old ways of education are becoming obsolete, and therefore Africa should take it upon itself to make sure that it improves its own people. You know, in Japan they have one skill that has made it who they are now. If you take after the attack, the invasion of the US with a nuclear bomb and everything, Japanese were doing bad, but they incorporated one thing which was called the circle, the quality circle. That if it's an organization, every week you all come together and suggest one improvement that should be added onto that company. And if you suggest it, then you hate it, and then you do it. That company, in a period of 10 years, it becomes mega. You can never find it where it started. So should we Africans also adopt such kind of an arrangement where we try and adopt these new things at a supersonic speed, even if it is a slow speed, but we do something about it. And therefore, I would leave it to our leaders to think in that kind of an angle, that at least if we can really not do something big and change the perspective at which we are viewing ourselves compared to the other improved technological countries, then we should adopt a certain pace that should, in long run, lead us where we want to be.
We talk about the governments and how do we leverage this kind of technology, how do we train our children to leverage this technology. Yeah, we go deep. What should you pay attention to, because there is a lot of noise. you should be able to know how you separate the noise and the signal.
Make it a point to subscribe, and we will be glad to have you contribute. Make sure you give us feedback, because we don't know how you take it if you do not write to us. Please make sure you tweet us. We shall tweet you back. Write a comment on our YouTube, and please subscribe and invite friends to also subscribe, because this is Knowledge Unlimited. Thank you very much for joining us today.
We're gonna put a link in the description where you can join the community of Pragmatic Talk, whereby you can also contribute to what we talk about. You're gonna find it in the description. Just click and join that WhatsApp group so that we'll be able to interact together and we know what you exactly need. Thank you very much.